Surprise University.
A service of Babylon Theater presents
Education warmed over.
Postmodern Education for the Modern World.
Real SU classes.
Repackaged and produced just for you
to watch anytime.
On this station. Ooh. Tonight's program is...
Hello, I'm Dennis Menachie, and I'm still your teacher for the class Learnation 101.
And I'm Rember Wurver, still a graduate student here at SU, where I've been studying the history of Babylon theater for about the last 8 years because, you know, it's difficult. But I've been having a ball, and sometimes a bat as well, teaching the ancient Babylon and their language, Babble, this quarter. But we have a lot to do. So I'm going to turn it back over here to Dennis to explain what we're going to do today.
Well, what we are doing is something like this. We're sitting here on Babylon Theater, are we not? And a few of the others. Now, this is one of those cryptic sayings that the Bab Boys are always coming up with.
But really, Denny, this is about the most cryptic one of theirs that I have yet to come in contact with. It comes up almost every day around the Babylon department. Now the receptionist is even saying it.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially right after having one of those pre-rolls somebody gave me when they had returned from Colorado, remember? And what I think now is that the whole sentence or phrase or whatever it is just a perfect example of what both of us have been trying to get across in our classes. But first, I've been told to get this in before we get too far today, so here goes nothing. As I'm sure you all know in the classroom, but it might not be so clear to those of you who are watching us on television. Although, well, anyway, we have combined the classes today, a clever idea which Rember had. And in a few minutes, we will be joined by the B-Boys themselves. Yes, Greg and Nolan will be stopping by to give us some of their thoughts on all this. And in fact, I've just gotten the word this morning, remember, that they intend to personally administrate the final exam, which will be taken 2 weeks from now in another joint meeting. And I use the word advisedly, if you know what I mean.
But we just beginning here, Dennis, for those of you who did your ladies or did do your homework, you may apply credit to thoughts received. But there are some responses. I like to read them here from lecture 7. Here's did you know there are no controls on the outward flow? Here's what word games in lieu of homework is just plain lazy.
That sounds like it came from one of my students. And I'll answer that because I think I know who it is. Lou is actually in my class and may be here today. I haven't seen him, but I have not found him to be lazy, however. I sometimes can't find him at all. But in Learnation, homework is a mind game. It cannot actually be done.
All right, then.
Technicality.
Now, back to or on to phrases for in this instance, the phrase, and this is new Learnation for me. In Babble 101, we talk endlessly about words, but as Dennis has shown, or more accurately, showated, a phrase is merely a word made short.
Correct, Rember. And the B-Boys work both ways, often turning a word or a phrase into an entire paragraph for the purpose of either clarification or obfuscation. You never know.
But that doesn't make this phrase any less meaningful.
Right again, old babbling graduate. And the phrase, for those of you who are taking notes, and I hope none of my students are, well, at least I hope not for my part of the class members, but I have very little, if large amounts of influence on your people, remember.
So, Dennis, are we going to introduce the phrase now? or ladders when the BT boys climb up to meet us?
Well, I thought we would let them have that part of the lecture since they're going to need something to teach when they can't keep themselves going any longer, not to depend upon long rehashed idioms like they do now. Or is that idia, Professor?
Well, rather, I'd say ideations if we're going to
Oh,
continue to pretend that
right.
this wordplay is actually real babble, which
Yeah.
it is, or well, it is. I think it is.
Well, then I will do it.
Yeah.
Quote, I did 12 ladies today, unquote, is the set of words. Well, we won't be telling you them until just a little later. Because right now, just back from a return engagement, I hear the footsteps of one or all of Greg and Nolan coming down the hall. Please introduce them as they enter the hall, Rember.
I will, as soon as I remember. But first, as I like to say, there's more. Now that the beans are out of the hat and the phrase has been brought forth, it's cramming time, class. It's a real Babel phrase uttered and discussed by real Babylonians.
Yeah. Modern Babylonians, they say. But it is true. All the answers to the test will be revealed so that if you have questions, you can listen attentively and maybe they are answered for you. Interruptions will be ignorated. No homework to do after this drop. And now,
Greg and Nolan need no introduction,
hmm,
but they require one. Nolan has been the faculty overseer doer for Babel 101, and Endley, he is the one who judgates my thesis. And Greg, he's been the overholding one for the Learnation lectures and the finder and hierator of Professor Minichi.
yeah. And they've both been one and all of by then of Babylon Theater and the verse in which we live. Are they here digitally, remember?
That's hard to say, Dennis.
Mm,
You know, so many fingers, so many pies. It's a
sure.
math problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little choked up right now, to tell you the truth, Den.
Yeah, it is great to have them coming here personally.
No, it's just that I'm giving up a home cooked meal to be here. You know.
Well, right. Well, look, here they are. It's good to have you here, brother. Thank you, Dennis. It is nice you could come by. What?
Hello, Rember. How am I? I mean you. How am you? You are finally, and I am fine, really. If it wasn't for bad fination, I wouldn't have fination at all.
Class, Greg and Nolan have come in this morning as testators. And I mean that in the many ways. Test, in addition to giving it to you, the boys will attest that they are here. Oh boy.
Well, I'm here, and I think this combined class might just teach you what you need to know basis. Rember's been talking a lot about how to say and think like a Babylonian, and Dennis has been showing you how to be a Babylonian by doing Babylon theater.
They are indeed a powerhouse, aren't they?
Like you, class, Greg and Nolan do Babylon theater. That we are Babylon theater, that's mostly genius and marketing. But as we have often said, what we do is Babylon theater, or conversatedly, Babylon theater is what we do.
That way we get you coming and going. We are what we do, but we also do what we are. So, which came first? If you answer both, you're brilliant. But if you answer neither, you are prescient. And if you answer, who can say, you are a philosopher?
Which brings us to doing the ladies. Tell us about I did 12 ladies today. Show and tell. It's not a test, but it is an assignment.
Golly, You sure are some teacher, Nolan. But what we have here is really a case of putting the verb before the horse. I was looking at a sentence from the old comics manual, as I call it, which was given to us, we believe, by the ancient Babylonian comics, and it is in the original Babble. We have found
Now get this, class, especially those of you who are in Mr. Wurver's Babble 101.
that it is often the case when translating Babble into modern language that the first colloquial phrase that comes to mind will work just fine. So, taking the sentence I was studying, which goes, doing nothing gets the best results.
And he is telling you the English words that seem to be the literal versions, but because I am sure that your teacher has explained to you that in ancient Babylon, babbling was very little like our talking. So it's a two-step process to understand what the written form says. First, there's that intuitive leap of faith and the grasping the first word that each of theirs suggests when they put their minds in tune with each other. And next, there's what we call the crossword puzzle step, arranging your words in a way that seems the funniest, right?
That's right. And then there's the seeming paradox that the comics manual sometimes speaks of Babylonian cosmology, and other times we seem to see the word cosmetology seemingly being used in the same way, which, of course, has led us to our first rule for the modern Babylonian comic. The punchline is usually foreshadowed in the first line of the joke. You can see how different their sense of humor was from our own.
So, the phrase?
Well, okay. I guess this means it all comes out now.
And class, you will be judged, not by us, but by R&D. Sounds like the old pharmaceutical days, huh, Greg? Take it down to R&D.
Right. And I can just imagine which one is R and which one is D. I hope we're not moving too fast in this stuff.
Well, not for me.
Well, Mr. Medici is onto something there, I think, Nolan.
So the phrase?
Oh, right. The original phrase, I did 12 ladies today, actually came to me because I was thinking about how a housemate we once shared the old fort with used to come home from cosmetology school and tell us something like that, which we would usually say, only God does ladies, right?
Right.
So we came to think of cosmology and cosmetology as being the same sort of magic, I suppose. Doing hair and creating the verse come from the same godlike power. That's in it. That's it in a peanut shell.
And that is how we came to understand that jamming is the human version of then there was light and all that, you know. So here we are. We're sitting in here on Doing Babylon Theater, are we not?
And a few of the others.
Well, boys, that's about all the time we have, but I do appreciate you being around.
And helping us get our feet back on the ground.
You're welcome. And we'll see you on test day. And remember, when we say you,
we mean you.